Welcome to my channel. So today's topic of discussion is the American Constitution and some adjustments that I believe we need to make for it. This is a very controversial issue, so if you're not interested in politics or human rights, you can just skip this video. I do not get involved in politics very often because I don't find it to be valuable. But human rights I have to deal with on a regular basis, and that's the rights of every individual, myself included, and those around me. And it dawned on me a while ago, and I've been wondering how to express the idea that I'm about to share. So we've created a Bill of Rights inside of our Constitution that gives us inalienable rights. And then it discusses that some of these rights have not yet been identified. Well, I'm about to identify 3 of them. And it makes perfectly logical sense because we can't survive without them. And they are human rights. They're not requests. They're not, oh, I can get by without it. Humans have the right to food, water, and shelter. Without food, water, and shelter, humans cannot survive. So we need to amend our Constitution to allot for food, water, and shelter being human rights. These are not requests. These are not, I can get by without them. I don't have to talk to people. It's unnecessary to talk to people. But I cannot survive without food, water, and shelter. To be a social creature, I do talk to people. And I have conversations and stuff. But as far as rights are concerned, how they missed in our Constitution that food, water, and shelter are inalienable rights that cannot be repressed or taken away doesn't make a lot of sense. And I understand that there's problems with land and farming and profit and all that nonsense, but when it really comes down to it, we need to figure it out. We need to figure out how to create a scenario where people can have food, water, and shelter and not be reliant on the welfare system to do so, but can be prosperous as well. And the first thing that I think of, the first thing that pops into my mind is to remove all taxation away from food, water, and shelter. None of those items should be taxed. That's the first thing I think of. We need to take them away as a commodity, something that we trade on the stock exchange. And we need to localize our food. We need to turn it into something that isn't something you have to purchase, but something that's available. We have the ability to have exponential food of a variety of natures and a variety of climates. And each climate's different, and each food in those climates is different. We're not going to grow, pine trees in a swamp very often, and we're not going to grow cactus in a swamp very often. And we're not going to grow, marsh plants in a desert. So there's things that we cannot grow in certain places. But human rights need to be addressed, and food, water, and shelter should be added to that list. And when I'm talking about water, we've talked about food a little bit. We're talking about water. I'm going to give you an example of how much water is being sent to the ocean by our state. And I'm going to use Monterey County as an example. And Monterey County has been in a drought, back-to-back droughts of 20 years for the last 40. So, people can sit there and talk to me about, oh, well, we had rain and rain and rain. It's like, that's great, but we had drought. And so I'm going to give you some rough statistics on how much water falls in Monterey County. And you can go fact check me if you want. That's fine. So for every square mile of surface area that's hard surface runoff, to 1/16 of an inch of rain that sleets from one side to the other is 1.086 million gallons, give or take, of water. We have a lot of hard surface runoff in Monterey County. That means all the roads, all the roofs, everything that is hard surface that water runs off to and goes to a gutter and goes straight to the ocean. That's hard surface runoff, and that's all water that could have been captured and stored for later use for a variety of reasons. So to give you an idea of how much water that is, that 1 square mile of surface area is roughly 365 plus, or give or take, 365 million gallons a year, because we get about 21 inches of rain a year in Monterey County. To give you an idea of how much water the whole county receives, even though it's not usable, because a lot of it falls on just land, the whole county, the total surface area of the county, roughly, gets 1.7 trillion gallons of water per annum. So we need to figure out how to turn the watersheds into better allocation systems and stop futzing about and telling people we're in a drought. That's just Monterey County. That doesn't include the rest of the counties in California. As far as shelter's concerned, that one's difficult because we have land limitations, and I understand that. But monolithic domes are very inexpensive to build and are long-lasting and can reduce our cost of living dramatically. Systems similar to monolithic domes can be utilized, but monolithic domes are the ones that pop into my mind the easiest. We'd use a lot of concrete, we'd use a lot of rebar, that would happen, but we can shut down the homeless problem pretty fast if we can figure out how to provide the needs of the people and not abuse them with taxation concerning their needs. Because these are needs, these are not wants. I don't just want a house, I need a house. I don't want food, I need food. I don't want water, I need water. These are needs, these are not wants. And we need to recognize them as needs and then adjust our Constitution accordingly. And then obviously this is not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen tomorrow. This is a long-term goal that we have to, as Americans, address. And one of the things that we need to address is that housing should not be a commodity that can be exchanged. Now, I get it. If people want to have a second house or a third house or a fourth house, sure, those could be commodities that could be taxed. And they should be, because those are business assets at that point. But your primary home, your first home, your primary home, that should be a non-taxable, non-sellable item that you cannot be abused by the government for. The government should not be able to take that away from you. They should not be able to use eminent domain. That should be abolished to move a person's home. Eminent domain should be changed to a point where the primary residence should not be moved. The primary residence is your life. It's where you live. It's your community. It's not something that's a sellable asset. These are my opinions, but I think that's the way it should go. That way people can survive, even if there's tough times and there's hard times. If people have a place to be and grow their own food on their own land, which I think is also a part of this, that should not be infringed upon. People should be able to grow their own food without infringement by the government, without being told that they're not allowed to do it. that should not be infringed upon. That is an inalienable right, and they should be able to capture their own water in cisterns and stuff and use it for whatever purposes that they need to use it for. If you have ideas on this or you have conceptual thoughts, I'd like to hear them. If you like this kind of video, share it with a friend. If you like this idea, share it with your congressmen and your senators, because we really need to change the rules so that way we don't have the homeless population that we're dealing with currently, and we don't have the inflationary curve that we have due to housing prices going astronomically high, which causes people to be homeless because they can't afford $3,000 or $4,000 in rent for a single bedroom apartment. Just because the mean average income is millions of dollars doesn't mean that the person that's working at Starbucks or, at the Ace Hardware Supply can make that kind of money and make that kind of rent. Just because somebody bought a house and decided that they needed to have the renter pay for it is not an appropriate way to deal with that. And those houses should be taxed pretty heavily because they're not primary homes. And that's an opinion of mine, because those are businesses, and that makes sense that they should be taxed because those are businesses. They're not primary domiciles. But the renters should not be abused by that. Okay? And the renters of those secondary homes should not be abused by the taxation. And so that's a thought process I have on it. I'm not saying I'm correct. I'm not saying that I have the right idea, but it needs to be put out there so that way we can have a conversation about it and we can start moving towards something that's better. Because if the AI revolution is real and it really starts upsetting the job market and starts taking away jobs, massive amounts of jobs, we're going to have to come up with an alternate future for people and their housing, because they're not going to have jobs. And that's not an appropriate use of technology, especially in the transition phase. So this is a thinking process, and like I said, I these are just my thoughts. I don't believe that I'm correct or right. I think that we should have a conversation about it, and it should become a mainstream conversation. So there you go. There are my thoughts for the day on that. Have a great day.